Hi, I'm Kelly and welcome to Kapowski Reads. And I have recently just finished a book. I say recent, like I finished it this morning. And this book featured my absolute favourite plot trope of all time, which is toxic friendship. And I wanted to talk about this book, but also share some of my favourite books that deal with toxic friendship, because it seems like that's something that I really like in fiction, not in life. In life, my friends are fantastic. Our friendships feel great, but in fics, I want mess, and I love having mess. So I'm going to start with the book that I have just finished. I have a hair somewhere on my face. That's going to be annoying. I have just finished reading The Furies by Katie Lowe. And this book is about four friends. And one day, somebody shows up dead on a swing, just in a park area of the school. And these four friends know something about what happened, and this book is kind of letting us as the reader know what on earth happened to result in this young person no longer being with us and what was going on at that school. We have a group of four friends. They are all 16, 17 years old. They're all going through something. Our main character has lost her father and sister. Her mother is not coping with it at all, and she finds herself brand new at this school and is invited into a trio of friends to bring them up to a foursome, which seems, sweet, lovely, make the new girl feel welcome. And then we find out that she looks a lot like another student who's recently been in the news because she had gone missing. And it kind of looks a little bit like they've replaced their missing friend, their literally missing friend, with somebody who looks a lot like her. And this quartet are all a little unusual, and it's kind of not clear originally whether they're unusual for any reason other than just, sometimes we're weird when we're teenagers. Sometimes we're weird when we're older than teenagers as well. The friendship between these characters is very interesting. We have a clear sort of 2 and 2 formation. So our main character, Violet, she finds herself kind of paired up with Robin. Robin reminded me so much of somebody from high school, but like in a very over-exaggerated way, which I suppose is what made me really like this book, was sort of seeing a very dysfunctional relationship, very, very much more dysfunctional in the book, of course, but it was very interesting for me sort of kind of seeing some like teenage drama, but it was very, very, very dramatic. Like, we're talking Hollyoaks level of drama. This book reminded me a lot of The Craft, which is one of my favourite films. I absolutely love it. But it follows a very similar sort of concept of a trio of friends, embracing the new girl. And, maybe they learn a little bit about magic along the way, because these girls get involved in a little bit of dark magic, shall we say. And the Furies are involved, which is probably a little bit of a hint from the title of the book. This book was utterly chaotic, and I found it to be quite jumpy, but like in a really disorienting but good kind of way. I was kept guessing right up until the end. Like, I didn't even know who the victim was until she already was a victim by that point. I didn't see it coming, and I just thought that this book just grew arms and legs and was a really interesting tale of obsession and of rage and of revenge, and it was just utterly chaotic and just in the best kind of way. So I actually ended up giving this 4.5 stars because I had a great time with it. I would like to see if the author's written anything else. This book is quite not old. I think it's like 2019. Yeah, 2019, so you know, maybe the author's got a few more books by now or one more, and I will have a little look and see, hopefully just as enjoyable as this. So let's get on to some recommendations, because I love me an unhinged friendship tale. So first recommendation for toxic friendship is going to be The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. This is about a writing retreat. It's a murdery book in a very isolated setting with a group of writers, just really, really talented writers who are competing to get the adoration and support of one of their beloved favourite authors. And like chaos ensues. There's a little bit of blood coming out of the house onto the snow there. Chaotic. But this features a few very interesting friendships that some are nice and healthy. Most of them are definitely not. I feel like the toxic friendship element of the book is not the most important element of the story, but it is my favourite part of it. This is just a fantastic book that I read last year and I highly recommend it, but also it has toxic friendship, which I love. Next up is the book that I kind of hoped was going to win the Bloody Scotland award last year. It didn't, but it won an imaginary award in my heart. The Things We Do to Our Friends by Heather Darwent. This book, if I was going from unhinged to most unhinged, I think this would have to be quite close to the most unhinged section of that imaginary chart, because this book is it's just chaos. We have Claire, who's gone to university in Edinburgh, and from the beginning it's very clear that Claire is hiding something. She's very shy and reserved outwardly, but inwardly there's a whole internal monologue going on, and as a reader you get to read that monologue. You get to know what she's thinking, but what she's also hiding from her friends. She meets Tabitha and her little gaggle of friends, and they are very affluent and they live a very different student lifestyle to most people, and they've embraced Claire into their lifestyle, but their friendship is just instantly very, very toxic, very unhealthy. And they embark on some extremely illegal and not okay activities together. And the book, this was just an utter, like, I want to call it a mess, but I feel like that might suggest that I'm saying the book itself isn't good. The book is excellent. If, you know, I had the best time with this, but the actual just actions within the book are utterly chaotic, and the friendship is this, it gets so bad that you're like, I don't know who is the worst of all of you. I don't know. And I absolutely loved it. And I suppose you're right. It is time for a reread of this book. You're so smart and pretty. Yes, it is. I mean, I can't really talk about toxic friendship without talking about Bunny by Mona Awad, but I recommend that book all the time. So I thought I would recommend a different book, but it's also by Mona Awad, All's Well, because there is a very, very toxic friendship in this book also, and I feel that it's a very good representation on toxic friendship, but it's not the book I always talk about. So, you know, it's nice to recommend things that are new or not new, but different to the ones I always talk about. This is about a play. Miranda is a theatre director at a college, and she's wanting to put on a performance of All's Well that Ends Well. But her students are basically trying to force a coup. They do not want to do this play. Miranda has a chronic illness. She's got chronic pain, and her friend is very just lacking in any understanding of the pain that Miranda is going through. There's of course a lot more to their relationship than just that, but the introduction that we get to their relationship is that Miranda's bestie is not so much a friend and just acts as if Miranda's just a chore to be around, when Miranda can't really control the fact that she is in so much pain. It's you know, It's not like she wants to be in pain. She just is. As the events of this book, which are bizarre in a very interesting way, as they progress, the friendship between Miranda and her friend also progresses until it just reaches a crescendo, and it just, I can't recommend this book enough. Yes, so good. A little kind of, I would say this is probably the most light-hearted of my recommendations. It is So Happy For You by Celia Lasky. I got this book from my very non-toxic friend Amanda in a book swap. It is about it's set in our world, but a kind of different version of our world, where marriage is more of a sort of business, which I suppose it kind of maybe is. I don't know, I've never been married, so you know, other people, if you've been married, you can let me know if that is the case. But it feels like every time I have a friend who's getting married, they do talk about how just it's such so expensive for things that if you were getting them for anything other than a wedding wouldn't be nearly half as expensive. This is a friendship between Robin and Ellie. Ellie is getting married and is definitely wanting that perfect wedding she's willing to pay any kind of cost, and Robin really was reluctant. She didn't want to be involved in the wedding, but you know, her best friend asked her to be part of the bridal party and she kind of felt she couldn't say no, and has ended up in this just horrific circumstance, watching her friend unravel, and their friendship just hangs on by a thread. I really loved this book, and I found that despite the very unhealthy relationship between the characters, I found it to be a very light-hearted book, and I think a huge part of that is due to the fact that while this is set in the world and Earth and the it's kind of set in like a different version of Earth, an alternate version, where everyone's just so obsessed with marriage, and like you have the marriage, you have the babies, and then they grow up and they have the marriage and they have the babies and all of that, and it's just very like obsessive, and people take things too far, and it's, yeah, very good though. My second to last recommendation is The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. I know that I have seen other people talk about how The Guest List is their favourite Lucy Foley book, but I have to say that The Hunting Party is my favourite so far. I do have one unread book by her, so that could end up being my favourite, but so far, right now, it's The Hunting Party. This takes place on New Year's Eve in a very remote Scottish lodge. We have a group of friends who have gone up to celebrate Hogmanay, and come New Year's Day, that group of friends is down a member because she's dead. And we have this group of friends that from the offset, does anybody even like each other? It just feels like nobody likes each other, even like the couples. Like, why are you all there? I can't imagine wanting to spend Hogmanay with a group of people I don't like, you know, if I've got any choice about it. Like, I mean, normally for Hogmanay, I stay at home with my partner and we eat nice food. It's great. We'll be in bed long before the bells. But I loved this book. I loved that it is a kind of locked door mystery. You know, it has to be one of the many characters that we have met. Not going to be somebody who's come from the outside to bump off the victim. No. One of these people, all of whom we get a POV. And I really enjoyed this because I liked seeing how all of the characters felt about each other, and just a messy group of friends. You can't even call them friends at this point. Like, they don't like each other and things go too far, way too far. And I have to end off, I could not talk about toxic friendship in books without mentioning one of my all-time favourite books, Other People's Clothes by Calla Henkel. I've tabbed this. Like, I never tab books. I actually tabbed the parts that had the witty dialogue, because this book is one of just the most funly, nope, This book is just such a joy to read. The dialogue just feels so authentic for the time period. It is set in the late 2000s in Berlin. We have two students who are on a study abroad semester, and they have rocked up in Berlin and they are ready to sort of have the Berlin experience that they have dreamed about. Zoe and Haley start hosting these amazing parties in their rented apartment, and the friendship between these two very quickly goes a little sour, a lot sour, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful story with an unreliable narrator and just this fun student experience in 2009 Berlin. It is just glorious. It is very like student. It is glorious. I absolutely loved the relationship between the two main characters in this book. The way that you can see their relationship changing quite quickly. I really liked it. It's not just the relationship between them that changed. They themselves, their characters changed or revealed a little bit more about them as the book went on. And it is just one of the most gloriously unhinged books that I have read that is like coherent. Sometimes I'll read a book and it is unhinged and chaotic and I love it, but it's very disorienting. And this isn't disorienting, which I think is probably why it's one of my favourite books, because it's just like, it's so good. The dialogue in this book is so good. So like, I mean, I've underlined parts of it too. I slurped Haley's cruelty like spaghetti, twisted and wet, but in public it seemed garish. I just thought this book was so clever. It kept me guessing right up until the end, and it just was an absolute delight. Chaotic, unhinged, toxic. Would be absolutely horrific to be part of this book, or any of these books actually, but an absolute just delight to read. So these are my 6 recommendations for toxic friendship books, or books with toxic friendship within them. I would like to know if you have any recommendations for books that feature toxic friendship. I have heard great things about The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I don't know if that's maybe a good contender if I'm on the lookout for some toxic friendship. If you've read that book, let me know, or any other recommendations. I'm always on the lookout for those. And I am so pleased that I've actually finished a library book. I feel so bad taking them back unread, but I can actually return this book read, finished, loved. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!